Your knowledge of contract language is imperative.
You must know what a violation looks like if you wish to be active in its cessation.
It is important to understand that being active and knowledgeable affects your overall bargaining strength.
Together, we can forge a more militant NALC.
Good morning, and welcome back to Parcels of Knowledge, that podcast dedicated to delivering knowledge to the city letter carrier, with your host, the Roseville Wrecking Ball. Oh, I put that new logo out there, dig it? You know, I've been working hard. I'm going to start changing the image up. We're going to have a new look on the beginning of the year. Like I said before, I'm going to get new intro and outro music, have a new logo, which I already put out there. And other than that, I'm starting to get sick today. In fact, it started yesterday, and my voice just keeps getting worse. And, you know, my family has it, and their voice is gone. So I figured, okay, well, I know I said I'd record this episode Wednesday, but I don't want it to get any worse. It's probably bad enough as is. So, you know, today's the long-awaited part 2 of the Test Your Strength episode. I know you waited a whole 24 hours, but here we are today, finally at the other side. Here's where we test your contractual strength with the Region 2 Black Book. Do you think you have the chops to be the grievance genius? You know, be the Article 8 scholar that we know you are and that you have deep down inside of you? Let's bring that thing out. So today we'll be asking you the rest of the questions. So far we went over 115 out of 290 questions. Today we will go over the rest. We have a long road ahead of us, so buckle up, fellas. And this time around, I'm not going to do the number of the question just to save a little time, other than occasionally, just to kind of tell you where we are. And also, I'm kind of jumping around, too, because this Black Book, if you haven't noticed already, this Black Book is ancient. But a lot of these things still apply today. So, I've been taking apart the things that don't apply and not saying them or crossing them out prior to getting there. So, without further ado, here we go. Representatives for both the union and management have an obligation to try and resolve grievances at the lowest possible level. True. Article 15.3a. So if you don't understand, because maybe you haven't seen the first episode, I just want to put it out there just in case you're confused. I'm going to be asking a series of questions, all true or false, and the goal here is for you to figure out what the answer is, and then I'll let you know. And let's see how much you get right and see how much you get wrong. See where you stand in terms of knowledge. Okay. And if you're one of those guys who don't know where you are right now, go listen to the last episode. It'll clear things up a little bit. But all right. Next one. If a grievance is resolved at informal A, that resolution is considered precedent setting for all future grievances concerning the same subject matter. False. Article 15.2, Informal Step A. A resolve at informal A is never precedent setting, and there's a reason for this. It's because, typically informal A stewards are a little bit less, I don't know the right word for it, but sometimes they sign silly agreements. Like I've heard some things like, oh, well, you got violated. Well, now you get this extra day off. And that's why they don't set precedent, because you can do funky agreements if you really wanted to, but they don't want to be locked in. So that's part of the reason why at informal A you can't set precedent, which is not fair in my opinion. Because if a manager wants to truly avoid any sort of consequence, all they have to do is settle everything at informal A. But there are ways around it, like asking for the world at informal A just to make sure it gets to formal A. But either way, I digress. When a 204B is acting as supervisor, the steward should file informal A grievances with the installation head. False. M. Document 824. The term immediate supervisor as used in Article 15, which dictates the grievance procedure, may mean an acting supervisor, which would include a 204B. Failure by management to schedule a meeting or render a decision automatically appeals a grievance to the next step of the procedure. False. JCAM page 1511. Article 15.3.c allows the grievance to move to the next step. It does not create an automatic appeal. The responsibility for appealing within the time limits still rests with the union, as it always does, because we're the moving party of the grievance. Alright, any carrier may hold their own informal A meeting and make any adjustments without the union's consent. This is referring to adjustments on the settlement. False. M document 1065 and JCAM page 15.2. Absent a waiver by the bargaining representative, Section 9A of the National Labor Relations Act, require the representative be present at the adjustment portion. Number 122. Completing the joint Step A grievance form, which is the 8190, is done on the clock, but doing additions and corrections is not. False. M document 1145 and JCAM page 15.7. Additions and corrections is part of the grievance procedure if you so choose to use them, which means that if you are the certified steward, you have the right to do it on the clock. I would never recommend anyone do additions and corrections, though, because it gives management an extra window to reply that is unfair to the union. Employees on light duty are guaranteed 8 hours per day and 40 hours per week. False. See document 935. Employees on light duty may be sent home before the end of their scheduled tours due to a lack of work. Regular employees on limited duty are guaranteed 40 hours of work, compensation, or a combination thereof per week. True. M document 583. If 40 hours are not worked, then a Form CA7 should be submitted to OWCP. A PTF is always guaranteed either 2 or 4 hours, depending on the size of the installation, when they work a split shift. False. M document 246. If the PTF is notified prior to clocking out that they should return within 2 hours to work a split shift, then no new guarantee would apply. On the other hand, if the PTF is told prior to clocking out that they will return after 2 hours, then the employee will be given their minimum guarantee. Thirdly, if the PTF completes their assignment, clocks out, and leaves the premise and are then called back, they are guaranteed 4 hours of work or pay. This guarantee is applicable to any size office. Letter carriers may never deliver in other than daylight hours. False. M document 483. Don't bring this one near Roseville. We don't really play that game. Local management must provide forms to be available at each installation for reporting unsafe or unhealthful conditions. True. Article 14.2. Article 14, Section 2 refers to Form 1767, which is the reporting of hazards form. Management has 14 days to address a complaint listed on Form 1767. False. Elm 824632. Instructions on Form 1767 say management has not less than the end of the shift or 24 hours to address the complaint. All right, now we are on 131. An individual who has exercised an opt under Article 41, Section 2.b.3 or 4 is not available to be detailed to higher level bargaining unit work under Article 25. False. M document 276. Temporarily vacant carrier technician positions are filled per the provisions of Article 41, Section 2. False. M document 431 and JCAM pages 25.2 and 41.10. T6 positions are filled per Article 25 of the National Agreement. The duration of a higher level assignment is demonstrated by a properly executed Form 3971. False. Article 41.1.A.2. The correct form is a Form 1723. A regular carrier on a bid route may not assume a temporary T6 vacancy of 5 days or more. False. JCAM page 25.2. Article 25 makes any eligible, available, qualified carrier available for the higher level assignment in the immediate work area in which the vacancy exists. When scheduling for a holiday, management is required to use the ODL. False. M document 366. JCAM page 812. Just remember, overtime list is a function of Article 8 scheduling. Article 11 scheduling dictates the holiday schedule. When a pecking order reaches the non-volunteers, those who would be working on their holiday or designated holiday are scheduled to work first. False. Article 11.6.b. Absent a local agreement otherwise, which many of us have, the individuals whose holiday or designated holiday it is would be the last individuals to be worked in a non-volunteer status. Management must post a holiday schedule as of the Wednesday preceding the week in which the holiday falls. False. Article 11.6.a. Article 11, Section 6a requires the Postal Service to post a schedule by the preceding Tuesday. That's Tuesday, not Wednesday. If the Postal Service fails to post a schedule as of the Tuesday preceding the service week in which the holiday falls, a full-time regular bargaining unit employee who wants to work on his holiday or designated holiday will receive overtime for the whole day's work. False. Elm 434.53. While it may seem like semantics, Elm Section 434.53 provides a holiday scheduling premium of 50% in cases as described above. This premium is paid for the first 8 hours of holiday work if a violation occurs, and thereafter the individual is paid overtime as they would normally receive for working more than 8 hours within a service day. If a full-time regular employee that was properly scheduled to work the holiday is unable to work or fails to do so, the Postal Service may replace that employee and not be liable for holiday scheduling premium. True. Elm Section 434.53C1, M Document 155, and JCAM page 11.4. Alright, now we're on to 140. Management may assign individuals in to work on a holiday because they are better qualified than another carrier. False. M Document 340. A PTF receives holiday pay in accordance with all regulations as a regular employee does. False. A PTF receives a higher hourly rate of pay for each hour worked than a regular letter carrier in the same pay level would receive. This compensates for loss of holiday pay. Management may schedule... we're going to skip this one here. Let's see. Yeah, this one is not applicable anymore. The union may not require management to divulge whether union officials have applied for management positions. False. M document 1150 and JCAM page 313. Management may deny union access to an employee's official personnel file when the employee has not consented if the review is part of a grievance investigation. False. M document 1101. Union need not consent from the employee if it's part of a grievance investigation. Official requests for information must be submitted in writing. False. See document 10310 and see document 183. Now, technically, yes, they don't have to be, but we do recommend everyone put it in writing for the purposes of proving their burden of proof. If you do not receive that information, it becomes much more clear whether or not you actually submitted it in a way that was reasonable. All right, so management is not required to release medical records of an employee unless the employee has consented. What did I tell you earlier? False. M document 1155, M document 881, M document 1208, and C document 6652. The release of medical records is provided for in the ASM Appendix 120.90, EL 806, and by virtue of Articles 17 and 31. The union is entitled to supervisors' discipline records when necessary and relevant. True. M document 1160 and C document 10986. Supervisors' notes taken during discussions may be passed on to other supervisors and 204Bs. False. M document 314 and M document 1190. Supervisors may not exchange notes taken during discussions. However, they may orally exchange information. Supervisor notes are to be destroyed when the supervisor/employee relationship ceases, per M996. A letter carrier has the right to have a steward present during discussions between the employee and the supervisor regarding the employee's use of sick leave. False. See document 3769 and JCAM page 176. It is extremely important that the membership be aware that it is the request of the employee that triggers Weingarten rights. The question that precedes the request for a steward, though, should be a question of the supervisor as to whether or not this discussion may lead to discipline. The answer of the supervisor will determine whether it is appropriate for the employee to request a steward. You should be reminded that some discussions allegedly begin as simple discussions but soon turn into investigatory interviews, so employees should be made aware that if they believe the discussion is turning toward an investigatory interview, they should immediately request a steward at that point. So if it involves something you think you might get in trouble for, if you're discussing sick leave usage and the answer to your question may result in discipline depending on how you answered it, well then Weingarten rights may apply. 150. Discussions which involve fact-finding and which may lead to discipline entitle the employee to representation if requested. True. M document 1140 and JCAM page 176. Weingarten rights is what that is called. And that applies when management is searching for facts and trying to determine the employee's guilt or deciding whether or not to impose discipline. Official discussions may be notated in an employee's OPF. False. M document 1139 and JCAM page 16.4. Supervisors may maintain private personal notes, but they are not to be placed in any official file, nor are they to be exchanged between supervisors. Carriers may be ordered to cross all lawns, and such an order would be considered proper. That's false. M document 275 and Article 41.3.N. Letter carriers may cross lawns while making deliveries if customers do not object, and if there are no particular hazards to the carrier. But just remember, the carrier defines whether or not that they feel like they are safe, not the supervisor. That blanket policy sounds like it would be a violation. A carrier's child has asthma. Once a month, they take the child to the doctor for treatment. This qualifies for protection under FMLA. True. 29 CFR 825.113. Intermittent absences due to a family member's chronic condition do meet the criteria of the FMLA. Employees may have approved annual leave requests rescinded by the Postal Service in non-emergency situations. False. M document 508 and Article 10.4.D and JCAM page 10.9. The Postal Service may require employees to report to work before their scheduled jury duty. True. See document 6821 and ELM 516.33. Maternity leave is considered work for the purposes of achieving protective status pursuant to the provisions of Article 6.A.3. False. M document 785. Both full-time and part-time employees are eligible for paid military leave. True. ELM 517.41. Full-time employees are granted up to 15 days per year, and part-time employees are granted 1 hour of military leave for each 26 hours in a pay status in the preceding fiscal year. If the part-time employee was in a pay status for a minimum of 1,040 hours in the preceding fiscal year, and the employee's pay for military leave does not exceed 80 hours. No employee may take more than 15 days of military leave in a particular year. False. ELM 517.54 and M document 174. The ELM allows employees, if they have official orders for training or responsibilities beyond the 15 days, to take annual leave or LWOP at their discretion for the amount of time necessary. A non-scheduled day is counted in determining whether or not an employee has been sick in excess of 3 days, per ELM 513.362. False. M document 489 and JCAM page 1012. 3 days under that definition means 3 scheduled work days, not 3 calendar days. If a part-time flexible calls in sick, they are guaranteed 8 hours of sick leave for that particular day. False. M document 665 and JCAM page 1011. A PTF is not guaranteed a set number of hours sick leave anytime requested, but should be paid the number of hours that the employee was realistically scheduled to work or would reasonably have been expected to work on a given day up to 8 hours. Also, if a PTF has reached 40 hours prior to the sick day, the absence is treated as non-duty time. Alright, we're going to 162. Holy shit, we still got a long time to go. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I am so tired. But, it's fun anyway. I like it. PTFs are credited at the beginning of the leave year for all annual leave to be earned that year. False. ELM 512.312. PTFs earn annual leave based on the number of hours in pay status on an earn-as-you-go basis. With less than 3 years of service, 1 hour for each 20 hours worked to a maximum of 4 hours per pay period. With 3 to 15 years of service, 1 hour for each 13 hours worked to a maximum of 6 hours per pay period. With 15 or more years of service, 1 hour for each 10 hours worked to a maximum of 8 hours per pay period. Annual or sick leave must be used in minimum units of 1 hour. False. Article 10.6, ELM 512.511, and ELM 513.412. Units are now charged in whole hours and fractions of an hour by hundreds. 1/100th of an hour is a minimum unit allowable. If you run out of sick leave, management must approve a request for up to 30 days of advanced sick leave if you are a regular full-time employee. False. ELM 513.511 and JCAM page 1012. Approval is at the discretion of the postmaster. Normally, it will be advanced if there is reason to believe employee will return to work and medical documentation accompanies the request. LMOUs which mandate incidental leave are in conflict with the national agreement and are not enforceable. False. See document 5670 and see document 10901. Family medical leave may be used to look for daycare for a new child under 1 year of age. False. 29 CFR 825.122. Under certain circumstances, an employee caring for an ill niece or nephew qualifies for FMLA. True. 29 CFR 825.113.c and JCAM page 10.15. Acting in loco parentis qualifies for FMLA leave the same as biological child. The employee must act in place of a parent with day-to-day responsibilities to care for and financially support a child. Carriers can take FMLA leave for substance abuse treatment. True. 29 CFR 825.112.g. However, the care must be administered by a licensed health provider. 169. Nice. In-laws qualify for FMLA when they are living with the carrier. False. 29 CFR 825.113.b. Employees may be required to provide additional medical proof of FMLA entitlements every 14 days. False. 29 CFR 825.308. Management may not ask for recertification until expiration of original notice. Absent a minimum period, management may not ask more often than the 30 days. Supervisors may call a carrier's doctor for additional information about FMLA certification. False. 29 CFR 825.307.a and NALC Guide to FMLA page 12. When a carrier and her husband both work for the service and there is a child born, both are eligible for 12 weeks off. True. NALC Guide FMLA Page 19. The FMLA provides for only a combined 12 weeks of leave. Postal regulations are much broader. Local policies concerning call-in procedures for absences are for local management to determine. False. M document 1059. We got a handbook for a reason. Local policies must comport with ELM 513.332. Only sons/daughters and spouse qualify for the 80 hours of sick leave for dependent care. Thought that was true? No, it's false. Sick leave for dependent care MOU, JCAM page 1020. Parents also qualify. Trick question. Parents also qualify. 175. The delivery and transporting of express mail is exclusively letter carrier work. False. M document 136. I do believe we covered this one yesterday, but maybe I'm wrong. Management can assign duties to letter carriers outside the job description found in the EL 311 handbook. False. M document 35. Any manual sortation or preparation of mail for delivery on city delivery routes which have divisions down to the specific addresses on the route will be done by letter carriers. True. M document 777, segmentation settlement agreement from 1987. JCAM page 4135. While clerks may make sortations to directs on a letter carrier's route, clerks may not make what is called a tertiary sortation. Tertiary sortation. Management may use a checklist of unsatisfactory casing procedures to determine the proficiency of a letter carrier. False. M document 38. Letter carriers may use a stool at any time they desire to case mail. False. Article 41.3.A in M document 682 and M document 285. The key element as to whether or not the stool can be used while casing mail and performing other office duties is whether or not the use of the stool interferes with or affects the efficiency and standard job performance. Letter carriers on walking routes may be required to finger flat mail between stops. False. M document 504, M41, 321.5, and JCAM page 4122. This should be read in conjunction with M41 section 133.2. Carriers should not finger mail when driving, crossing streets, climbing stairs, or any other time it may cause a safety hazard. It is not a requirement for a carrier on a foot route to carry 4 inches of flats on their arm while delivering mail. You guessed it, this is true. M document 39. The Postal Service, within the rights of Article 3, has the right to issue letters of instruction and letters of information to employees. False. M document 387, M document 389, M document 390, M document 768. Management may not stop carriers from returning reworks to the throwback case. This happens to be true. M document 1023. A steward is entitled to the same latitude as his or her supervisor, including raising voices, using profanity, in their official capacity as steward. This was found to be true. See document 1191 and see document 11177. This immunity to discipline is limited to situations where the parties are on one-on-one and in private. Normally, if it's not private, they try to argue, well, you're making my authority, you're degrading my authority in front of other carriers. But once you're in that closed door, you can give them the elbow of education every once in a while. Don't give them your literal elbow, but give them your peace of mind sometimes. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it's not going to help. So don't do it when it doesn't, when it's not going to help. But, you got that right. You're equals when you're in that room. Number 186. Supervisors may refuse to answer questions during an investigation. Oh, let me preface this too, because I don't want you guys confused and then getting mad at me because you chose the wrong answer and you're like, motherfucker, you phrased the question wrong. So, rephrase the question. Supervisors may refuse to answer questions during an investigation. This is in reference to an investigation, like an investigatory interview from the steward investigating the supervisor. And this here is stating that they may refuse to answer those questions that the steward is asking the supervisor. Do you find that to be true? That they can refuse? Or false, that they can't? It's false. That is because management must answer reasonable and germane questions in terms of an investigatory interview or any type of investigation from the union in accordance with M Document 988. In reality, that's also in accordance with information law in terms of the NLRA. But, whatever. We're just going to cite the things that are easier to cite. A shop steward who is processing and investigating a grievance shall not be unreasonably denied the opportunity to interview postal inspectors. This is true. M Document 225. Postal inspectors must allow a pre-interrogation consultation between a steward and employee if requested. True! This is M Document 1092, important M Document, USPS versus NLRB, number 91, 1373. I am familiar with this. As when the postal inspectors came in here, we definitely flexed our right to have a pre-interrogation consultation. And boy, do you want one of those. You just want to slip a call into your president if you don't know what you're doing, because most of the time you don't get to be interrogated by the postal inspectors or be a part of representing an employee who is being interrogated. So, make sure you got your knowledge before you run into that situation. Maybe I'll do an episode on that. Okay, 189. We're about 100 away from being done. So, another 40 minutes probably? So, buckle in, guys. The national agreement mandates postal inspectors to give potential removal suspects their Miranda rights. This is false. See document 10510. I do believe they have a separate, don't take this as a fact, but I do think there's three different things like Calkine, Garrity, and Miranda, and it depends on the situation what type of rights that they want to read that carrier. So it's going to be situational. Okay, next. The union can insist on interviewing postal inspectors. This is kind of a throwaway one. Of course it's true. We just freaking got through with this one. This black book is silly sometimes. I think they're just trying to just drill it into your head. True. See document 10115. A steward and alternate steward may both process a particular grievance at their discretion. This is in reference to one grievance. So let's say you got grievance number 35. What it's suggesting is it true or false that a steward and alternate steward may both process that grievance, number 35, at their own discretion. So maybe one guy just feels like he's done. Oh man, I did enough math today. Hey Terry, would you like to take over? Yeah, sure Josh, I'll take over. Is that allowed or disallowed? It's disallowed, which means it's false. M document 503. Once the alternate steward has initiated a grievance, they may continue it as determined by the union. Only one steward will be given time for processing one grievance at each step of the level. So technically, if you're certified under the certification where the union is paying for your salary, then sure, you might be able to get away with it. But to be on the postal dime, then you must be certified as the only steward on that grievance unless something unusual takes place. An individual may choose which steward they want to process their grievances. False. M document 811. A union member in one post office may be designated as the union's representative to process a grievance at another post office. True. M document 233 and JCAM page 17.2. Such employee must be certified in writing to the employer at the area level, and an employee so certified will not be on the employer's official time and will not be compensated by the Postal Service. A former employee who is certified as a union steward will be allowed to enter the postal facility to perform the functions of the steward. This is true. That's M document 798. By the way, I don't know where it's dictated within the provisions, but I do know that if you are going to be visiting a postal facility to perform the functions of a steward, whether or not you're someone as outside steward or inside steward, and you want to visit that facility outside of, let's say, your working hours, if you're an inside steward, you need only to provide them your heads up, basically. You need only to provide them, hey, by the way, I'll be here at this time. And you should be able to be there. Because as long as you're not interrupting operations and you're conducting grievance processing or investigation of such, well, you have the right to be there. 195. A steward may not be allowed to conduct an interview of a customer when the customer's complaint affects the hours, wages, and working conditions of an employee. False. M document 761. As long as there's a grievance that is to be processed and you're investigating one, and that's why they put the wages, hours, and working conditions in there, well then you have every right to interview every single person. Now whether or not a customer is to be made available to you, that's another story. Because the Postal Service has no obligation to provide you that customer. That would have to be a willing participant. The Postal Service may, under certain circumstances, require a steward to conduct an interview by telephone rather than having a face-to-face interview. This is true. M document 565. It's important to note, though, that travel, in and of itself, is not a sufficient basis to deny a face-to-face interview. While serving as a steward or chief steward, nobody has those anymore except for my branch, an employee may not be involuntarily transferred to another tour, station, or branch. True. JCAM page 17.3. This is also known as super seniority, and it's kind of a benefit when it comes to being kind of like a temporary help. When I was a CCA steward, like it says, an employee that's serving as a steward or chief steward may not be involuntarily transferred to another tour, station, or branch, which means that, hey, a CCA as a steward can't be involuntarily transferred. You're going to have to want to go there. That's kind of a nice benefit. Same with, if you're not at that 6 years yet, that super seniority also helps you with not being laid off. Number 198. Management must allow ample time for the local union to participate in new employee orientation in conformance with Article 17, Section 6. True, this can be found in M Document 644 and JCAM, page 17.8. This may have been updated with the NERP and NEMP and all that, but many of this is still applicable. Please let me know if I made a mistake, and maybe I'll cut it out of the episode. It might have been too late for some people, but I have a feeling that I already cut out most of the things that are no longer applicable. Alright. If members of local branch strike or attempt an obvious slowdown, the union officers must inform the members that they are in violation of the agreement and order them back to work. True. Article 18.2. I'm not sure if that's still the correct article, but it may be. But I can tell you this. Man, if my secretary or vice president or even my president says, get your ass back to work or stop slowing down, oh man, I would not be happy about that. But I can see, it's an obligation by the contract, and it makes sense. A one-day count and inspection may not be used as a sole basis to establish a standard against which the carrier's performance may be measured for disciplinary purposes. True. M Document 829. M39 Section 141.2 allows for one-day count to determine office performance, but there is absolutely no contractual provision for a one-day count and inspection. Form 3999s, they may be done throughout the year. Management may not require foot carriers to carry parcels weighing more than 2 pounds. If you said true, I've got a bridge to sell you, brother, because it was false. Dig it? That is in C Document 3222. That is pretty interesting, because I guarantee you on a daily basis every one of us carries packages more than 2 pounds. Management may require foot carriers to carry those parcels on an infrequent, non-routine basis unless there is an equally prompt, efficient, and reliable way to effect that delivery. I think they're referring to, foot routes, which we probably don't have any left unless you're in a huge city, but or an unusual place. But yeah. Letter carriers may not verify an entire mail count. This is false. M Document 814. This also applies for one-day counts. Management must provide permanent adjustments to routes to place them in as nearly an 8-hour basis as possible. True. M Document 792, M39 242.122, and M39 243.11a. Management may use a one-day $39.99 to determine the actual street time of a route. False. M Document 745 and M Document 829 and M39 242.321.a. The M39 provides that the street time shall be determined by the average street time for the 7 weeks random time card analysis and the week following the count and inspection, or the average street time used during the week count and inspection. A union steward's activities, if occurring weekly or more often, may be appropriate for inclusion on line 21 of the 1838C. If you're an avid listener of this podcast, you better fucking get this one right. I've said this probably 1,000 times because I am trying to do it myself. This is true. M Document 726. A union steward's activities should be counted as part of their route's office time, which means that it will be a hell of a lot easier to get your steward time if it's considered part of your route. But just remember, you got to prove the burden that it's occurring weekly or more often. So sometimes it's good to get, that overtime equitability stuff to occur every week so that you can show that that's weekly. We got an agreement here where they give us an hour per week to set that stuff aside. But that's not my time. That's the alternate steward time. So I designated him as the equitability guy. All right, 206. Management may set an appropriate pace at which a letter carrier must walk. False. M document 304. This provision indicates that there is no set pace at which a carrier must walk and no street standard for walking. You got to laminate that, put that in your pocket. I know there's 204Bs and stupid visors, as you might want to call them, that will never learn that. So you got to laminate it, have it ready for whenever you need to talk to them. A special route inspection is conducted in accordance with the applicable provisions of the M39. True, M document 632 and the M39 272. 1 day counts per 141.2 of the M39 can be utilized to substantiate discipline for lack of performance. False. M document 5 and M document 829. If management has a problem with an employee's office efficiency, they should conduct a 1 day count. True. M document 385. When management refuses to properly conduct a special route exam, a monetary remedy should be requested. True. C document 5545 and C document 6720. A letter carrier who is on an 8-hour limitation cannot qualify for a special route count and inspection. False. M document 690. This section provides that if a route shows over 30 minutes of overtime or auxiliary assistance on each of 3 days or more in each week during a 6-week period, the regular carrier assigned to such route shall, upon request, receive a special mail count and inspection to be completed within 4 weeks of the request. Earlier start times during count week are at the discretion of management. False. M document 1088. Management can perform 1 day counts without using an 1838C. False. M document 1181. Management must conduct carrier-requested special inspections within 4 weeks, even during June, July, and August. True. See document 11099 and JCAM page 4127. Just remember, if the employee qualifies and requests it, the inspection must be conducted. But the caveat here is that during the month of June, July, and August, the NALC typically recommends that you do not get them conducted for the simple fact that these are low-volume months. But if you're anything like me, well, then that's going to be the best months to provide it because you get all sweaty and slow and you do a lot of comfort stops. So, yeah, it all depends. It's situational. Management may delay 271G requests if a unit review is scheduled within 60 days. False. See document 10635. Management has no obligation to maintain DPS quality after obtaining the threshold percentage. False. M document 1225. In stations without 6 shelf cases, management will determine the definition of a letter. False. M document 1112. The definition remains the same. Management may unilaterally cancel previously authorized lunch locations. Unfortunately, this one's true. See document 6096, see document 3902. It's true except where it can be shown that the cancellation was arbitrary in its reasoning. Letter carriers may not pursue activities other than eating lunch during their authorized meal period. False. M document 622 and M document 545. Those step 4s indicate clearly that carriers are free to pursue activities other than eating lunch, as long as those activities are not in violation of postal regulations. A letter carrier may take his lunch at the end of his 8-hour shift. True, no employee may be required to work more than 6 consecutive hours without a meal or rest period of at least 1.5 hours. The caveat here is that no employee may be required. It doesn't mean that you have to take it at that time. So you could take it at any time of the day, so long as it's in the line of travel or the authorized locations. Then you will be absolutely fine, even if it's the last 30 minutes of your day. The workload assessment process, we're going to skip that one because I don't think that's applicable. Let me see. Daily volume estimations recorded for individual routes will not constitute the basis for disciplinary action. I do think we got a better one now, but this is true. M document 813. I do think there's other M documents out there now. I think this was from 2006 or something. The national criteria for development of office time is explained in the M39 handbook, and methods for recording volumes are contained in management's instructions. 223. Management must explain to an injured employee that he or she is guaranteed a choice of a treating physician. Which treating physician is what they're talking about. This is true. M document 1117. Supervisors are allowed to accompany an employee to a non-emergency work-related doctor visit. I don't know in what world that would be true because this one is false. M document 1102. Supervisors are allowed to accompany an injured employee in emergency treatment cases. That's true. M document 1102, same M document. However, the supervisor's only role is to ensure the employee receives prompt attention. The supervisor may not witness or participate in the treatment. Letter carriers may be required to sign local forms as a condition of employment. False. M document 544 and M document 15. Management may document the specific provisions of a handbook or manual reviewed by carriers and the information given to them, but there is no national requirement for carriers to acknowledge that the subject information was received. Remedies for supervisors intimidating employees or violating the violence and behavior in the workplace memorandum can call for that supervisor to be barred from supervising letter carriers. True. See document 15697. Written apologies are inappropriate as remedies for management's misconduct toward employees. False. See document 15316. The postmaster was ordered to post a written apology and reimburse sick leave. Man, I need to get written apologies for Article 8 violations. Alright, there is a limit as to how many bundles that may be required on a mounted or curb line route. False. M document 750. In offices where there is a CFS or PARS function, letter carriers are not required to forward or return any class of mail, including oversized parcels. True. M477. The Postal Service may not require letter carriers to deliver mail without a specific address affixed as a third bundle. False. M document 159. This particular settlement agreement provides that in all instances, carriers may be required to deliver the above type of mailing as a third bundle. The same settlement goes on to say that in no case may the Postal Service require a fourth bundle on a park and loop route. If the Postal Service requires two simplified address mailings are to be delivered on the same day, the correct procedure is to collate the two bundles so that they may be handled as a third bundle. True, M document 159. This is referring to, like, for example, a lot of times we would have a third bundle, like a flimsy newspaper-like bundle, that would be accompanied by an address card. You know, they're two separate bundles. They count as four bundles if you count them separately, and management oftentimes will get away with expecting you to carry it as four bundles. That's inappropriate. They should be collated or cased so that you only have three bundles at the end of the day. Or else, you know, they could curtail it for the next day, the address card, even though the address card says itself, don't deliver separately. But, you know, that's the least of your worries. You want to stay safe because you want to only deliver three bundles. Pre-sequenced mail, letter or flat size mail with the specific address affixed that arrives pre-sequenced in the order of delivery is always to be collated in the appropriate size of mail. False. M39 121.33 and C document 3003. Carriers on curbline routes handle such mail as a third bundle park and loop route should not deliver such pre-sequenced mail as a third bundle except on dismount deliveries. Samples too large for delivery to a customer's mailbox should be left outside of the box if adequate protection is provided. True. M document 779. A letter carrier should never leave a Form 3849 for a sample. False. If the delivery cannot be accomplished in a safe manner, Form 3849 should be utilized and the sample and the card should be returned to the delivery unit. Carriers are not required to sign for stamps by mail. False. M document 1012. The Postal Service may bar the release of medical records under the Privacy Act. False. See document 6652. The union is entitled to medical records if they are necessary to investigate or process a grievance, even in cases where the employee involved does not authorize the release of that information. The Privacy Act does not bar the release of such information when it is necessary for collective bargaining purposes. Local management can allow schedule changes for employees' personal convenience without the concurrence of the union official. False. ELM 434.622.I and the F21 232.23 and JCAM pages 8-7. You always have to be approved by a steward, and if it's not, well, that constitutes a grievance. Management's rights are absolute, and they can choose to disregard other contractual provisions or handbook sites in the exercise of those rights. Yeah, they wish. This is false. JCAM page 3-1. While Postal Management has the basic power to manage the United States Postal Service, it must act in accordance with applicable laws, regulations, contract provisions, arbitration awards, letters of agreement, and memoranda. Consequently, many of management's rights enumerated in Article 3 are limited by negotiated contract provisions, or in layman's terms, they have the right to manage however way they want, as long as it doesn't conflict with local laws, the contract, or other handbooks and manuals. In that case, they are violating Article 3. Alright, 240. Part-time flexible carriers may be assigned to perform clerical duties and required to pass examinations on schemes if their assignment anticipates use of scheme knowledge as provided by Part 124 of the M41 Handbook. True. M document 518, but it's not normally PTFs that are scheming, it's normally management. An unassigned regular's schedule is set based upon the work hours and days off of the first week of work within that category and relevant local memorandum. True. EL 401-111.D.5. Management must provide restricted, limited duty job descriptions in writing. True. M document 1119 and M document 1116. By accepting a limited duty assignment, the employee waives the opportunity to contest propriety of this assignment. False. M document 1120 and JCAM page 1311. A union official is not required to give notification to management prior to visiting a postal installation. Oh man, I gave you the answer to this earlier. Hopefully you were paying attention. That would be false. JCAM page 23.1. Notification should be given by a union official prior to their visit at the appropriate level. For example, a local union official should give notice to the postmaster. By the way, this could just be a phone call and heads up and saying, hey, I'm coming. On the job instructors. Oh, you know what? We're not going to do that one. That is no longer applicable. Management can administratively decide whether or not a T6 position should be filled per Article 25. False. M document 431. That language of this settlement indicates that those positions should be filled as per Article 25. WOMA positions are filled in accordance with Article 25, Section 4 of the National Agreement. True. M document 433 and JCAM page 25.1. An installation head may determine the times when the seasonal changes of uniforms will take place. True. M document 519 and ELM 931.25. By the way, check out ELM 931. It's fucking wonky, but it's something that you should pay attention to because it's stuff that is applicable, and it's all uniform stuff. But, you know, like they said, they can say, hey, you know, time for summer. Hey, time for winter. It's kind of weird. I think certain people wear whatever they want all year lately, but a carrier is not required to wear a tie until they leave for the street. This is true, as long as your postmaster's making you wear a tie. But yeah, that's found in M document 862. They're not required to do so unless they're in view of the public. Employees who are authorized to wear neck/chest protectors as part of the authorized cold weather uniform will not be required to wear a necktie. True. M document 430 and ELM 934.22. A pregnant letter carrier may be allowed by the installation head to be flexible in the wearing of uniform in the advanced stages of pregnancy. This is true. M document 846. An employee claim should be filed at the informal step A of the grievance procedure. False. Form 2146 should be filled out and submitted to the employer with the steward's recommendation at the local level. The employer must submit the claim form, which must include the supervisor's and steward's recommendation, together with all documentation submitted in connection with the claim to the Step B team within 15 days for determination. Step B teams will review the claim and issue a decision within 14 days of the receipt of the claim at Step B. Yeah, right. The Step B team may 1. Resolve the claim, 2. Declare an impasse, or 3. Remand the case for specific information needed for a decision at Step B. The report of the Safe Driver Award Committee is the determining factor as a basis for revoking or suspending an employee's driving privileges. False. Article 29. Article 29 prohibits management from using the Safe Driver Award Committee report as a basis for revoking or suspending driving privileges. An employee's driving privilege is automatically revoked or suspended with a revocation or suspension of his state driver's license. True. JCAM page 29.2. Under the provisions of Article 29, management may not impose a lesser penalty. If an employee's state driver's license is revoked or suspended, he or she must inform his or her supervisor immediately and could face discipline if he or she does not. True. JCAM page 29.1. Article 29 explicitly requires the employee to report a revocation or suspension of his or her state driver's license. Failure to do so could result in discipline. An employee may not temporarily work in another craft when their driving privileges have been suspended or revoked. False. See document 18159 and JCAM page 29.4. Arbitrator Carlton Snow ruled that management has an affirmative obligation to look for such work, and if they are unable to do so, an employee should continue in a pay status. Cha-ching. An LMOU may only include the 22 items found in Article 30 and may not address issues outside of them. As you've guessed it, this is false. JCAM page 32. The local parties are free to discuss other subject areas as well, but neither party is required to discuss subjects other than the 22 line items listed in Article 30, Section B. So that means we can agree to something at the local level, but if it has to be appealed, well, the person who proposed that, if it's not within the 22 line items, they're kind of screwed because it's not going past that local level. Management may impasse LMOU provisions outside the 22 items found in Article 30. False. C 13080 and JCAM page 35. However, management may impasse on any of the 22 items. They must show that continuing the provision is an unreasonable burden. Local parties may renegotiate wholesale changes to an LMOU outside the 30-day period if it's done bilaterally. This is false. See document 14489 and JCAM page 32. Mittenthal says that they can't do a major overhaul but left room for fine-tuning of the LMOU. The union may not claim items in the LMOU that are in conflict, inconsistent with the national agreement since the local negotiated it. Once again, that's false. Article 30C. The parties may challenge a provision of the LMOU as inconsistent or in conflict with the national agreement only under the following circumstances. And essentially what it outlines is that, you have two chances to appeal it as inconsistent or in conflict with the national agreement. That is the time that you enacted it. So let's say you and your postmaster signed off on, every birthday the carriers get a new Corvette. And now they regret that. So the very same, they could do it during the negotiation period that it was enacted. And they have one more chance to fight that as inconsistent, and that is the very next one. After that, it becomes grandfathered. Alright, so an individual who is a VOMA is carried on the seniority list of the craft from which they came. This is true. VOMAs are a multi-craft position. Whatever craft they came from is essentially what their status still is. So, the VOMA can choose what seniority list to sign for vacation leave due to the fact that VOMA is a multi-craft position. So here it's insinuating that VOMA has the choice to choose whether they want to be on the clerk vacation leave or on the carrier vacation leave due to the fact that VOMA is a multi-craft position. Is this true or false? False. M document 746. The VOMA signs for vacation leave within the craft from which they came. That's the big caveat there you got to remember about VOMAs. The craft from which they came is every answer. A VOMA employee is selected on the basis of senior qualified, regardless of the craft from which they came. This is true, JCAM page 41.7. This is a multi-craft position and is not limited to an individual craft. Once selected, the VOMA employee loses his union representation. Of course that's false. JCAM page 41.7 and M document 51. Letter carriers in these positions continue in the carrier craft bargaining unit with seniority bidding and representational rights. However, a VOMA carrier is not eligible to place his or her name on an overtime desired list. By virtue of being a letter carrier, an individual is qualified to perform duties on a city delivery route. True, M document 151, M document 214, M document 196. Full-time reserve carriers and part-time flexible carriers are restricted to exercising their opting rights to the delivery unit where they are assigned. True, M document 66. If a part-time flexible carrier is loaned to another office, they opt for a hold-down assignment in the installation where they are working. False. M document 828. If a PTF is on loan to another office, they must be allowed to opt in the installation from which they were loaned. Auxiliary routes may be opted per Article 41, Section 2.b.3.4. and 5. False. M document 625. It is just saying that the auxiliary routes can't be opted on. A reserve carrier assignment may not be opted per Article 41. False. M document 749, 387, and 4110. An individual may opt for a reserve letter carrier schedule and days off. 270. A temporary vacancy of 5 days or more that includes a holiday must be opted for. Tricky. This one's true. Usually those schedules are not combined, but in this case, of course. M document 237. Management may not assign, or, we're going to skip that one. It might not be applicable anymore. Management may refuse to allow opting in order to reserve the assignment for training or evaluation of probationary employees. False. M document 595. They may not refuse opting in order to reserve the assignment for training of a probationary employee. Probationary employees may not opt per Article 41, Section 2. This is true. M document 594. Management may not utilize a part-time flexible carrier on a full-time craft duty assignment of anticipation duration of 5 days or more for training purposes rather than allow individuals to opt. True. M document 510. A PTF who has successfully opted for an assignment can be bumped off of that assignment. True. M document 293. If the PTF successfully opted, they would normally work that duty assignment as posted unless it can be shown that there is no 8-hour assignment available to which a full-time employee could be assigned. Absent that provision, the PTF should work the duty assignment for the duration. When an employee on a hold-down assignment is detailed to a 204B position, the opt is vacated and must be reported if the remainder of the original vacancy is 5 days or more. This one's true, fellas. If the person on the opt becomes a 204B, the opt becomes vacated. Has to be rebid. The duration for remaining on an opt will be as long as the position remains unfilled unless the opt itself places a definite time limit. This one's true. See document 7001. When an employee has opted for and received a vacancy of 5 days or more and then goes on vacation, they lose the right to continue their opt upon their return. No, you know better than that. This one's false. M document 748. In the above situation, the original opt employee will go on vacation for 5 days or more, and the assignment will be opted for that opt solely for the amount of time that the opter is on vacation. Upon return, the individual that went on annual leave, they will be returned to the hold down for the completion of its original vacancy. Routes under consideration for reversion are not optable. False. M document 1128. If a LMOU contains Article 41, Section 3.0 language, a carrier technician string may be deemed abolished if it's substantially changed. True. M document 694 and JKM 4125. It should be noted that changing one route on a T6 string is not cause for reposting. This whole provision would be inapplicable if the LMOU did not contain Article 41, Section 3.0. Management is under obligation to post routes installation-wide when bidding takes place under Article 41.3.0 if the local has installation-wide bidding. This is true. See document 15248. A section is defined as all the routes housed in one building. False. M document 1185. The LMOU defines section per Article 30. A section defined in the LMOU for the purposes of Article 30, Section B, Item 18, is not necessarily a delivery unit for purposes of Article 41.3.0. Employees from another craft accessed into the letter carrier craft begin a new period of seniority. This is true. See document 11528 and M document 1082. Any full-time carrier may bid for a carrier technician assignment. Trick question. This one's false. M document 425 and M document 280. A letter carrier must have either 2 years of postal experience, of which at least 1 year must have been as a city carrier, or high school diploma with 1 year experience as a city carrier. The criteria as to whether or not an individual is paid T6 pay for filling the assignment is whether or not the individual carries all 5 of the T6 routes within the vacancy. True. M document 452, M document 614, M document 902, and JKM page 25-2. Carrier technician positions are not included in posting under Article 41.3.0. False. M document 986. A T6's start time may differ from those of the regulars. False. M document 1020. Employees may finger mail while driving or hold mail in their hands while the vehicle is in motion. False. M document 341. Employees shall not finger mail while driving or hold mail in their hands while the vehicle is in motion. Letter carriers may be required to check the oil levels of their postal vehicles. False. M document 143. Letter carriers may be required to gas up their vehicles. However, letter carriers will not be required to check the oil or otherwise service their vehicles. Management must equalize part-time flexible hours. False. M document 121. There is no contractual obligation to equalize PTF hours. However, the same step 4 as cited above states that every effort should be made to equalize the hours consistent with the service needs and skills required. In plain terms, this means that they don't have to and can just use about any reason to substantiate their position. PTFs must remain by their phone and available to receive a call from the post office on a daily basis to see whether their services are needed. False. Document 13. There is no contractual provision to require PTFs to remain at home to receive a phone call on a daily basis. A regular carrier who is called in on his day off always has the right to work their assignment. False. Document 154. Only if the LMOU provides for such. If a regular route carrier is called in on their day off to work their own route, they bump the utility carrier to one of the other 4 routes in the string of routes, if the LMOU provides for this. To enable the utility carrier to achieve their bid assignment, they will be allowed to displace an employee who has opted to cover an assignment under the provisions of Article 41, Section 2, as long as such route is one of the utility carrier's string of routes, and if none of the other routes in the string are available. The District FMLA office has the final word as to whether or not a request for certification provides enough information. False. Document 1158. The Step B team is the final determinant when the issue is processed through the grievance procedure. PTFs may be loaned from one post office to another to avoid overtime. False. Document 1470. Whether the sole reason for details or loans at issue in this case was to avoid overtime is a fact issue. Management may inspect a route all 6 days of the count if it so chooses. False. Document 1543. Management may inspect on no more than 3 days of the 6. And that does it for our Black Book of Education. And, of course, this book doesn't cover all topics, but I think it covers quite a few, and it gives you a whole lot of references for if you're dealing with any of that stuff. You might hook on to one of those things and say, wait a second, let me rewind. I might need the citations so I can print them. But either way, how'd you do? Just tell me how you did. Did you hate going through these 2 hours of pain to try and learn as much as you can, or did you think it was a fun thing? Please leave me some feedback. I'd love to hear. And I pushed through it myself. It was fun though. I liked it, and hopefully you learned something valuable today. But as always, have a good day.
Out to the Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God. We need Article 8 scholars right now. The Grievance Genius and the Roseville Wrecking Ball doing amazing work.
Brothers and sisters, this guy is good, man. He's fucking good.
And my boy Joshua, he killed it. Man, he's lockstep right now. He's killing it.
You would think this guy has been around for 30 fucking years. That's how good he is. Yeah, it's like he wrote the contract.